What is going on, all you awesome superhero aficionados? This is the Heroes and Mutants podcast, your number one source of superhero talk and all things superheroes. I'm Nick with my co-host Jimmy, and we have a lot to talk about today. Very exciting episode. As you can see, Jimmy is ecstatic and cannot contain his excitement for the life of him. And usually when he's super excited and full of energy, he just sips his coffee, tea, vodka, liquor in silence. So you
Coffee.
know he's good to go and he's vodka, right?
Yeah, I think I drink coffee on every episode of this. I don't think there's any podcast I ever do without coffee or some form of energy drink. Actually, even if
I
I'm
mean,
not tired.
this is just water, but I just have it because this cup is super awesome and it gets everybody jealous.
My
This is
Batman,
Batman fans go to though, but
my Batman mug is in need of a washing right now. So I'm using,
oh, doll always, right?
yeah.
So a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Let's just get right into it. So this was pretty much expected. Had a lot of people scratching their heads a little bit, but a WandaVision spinoff starring Catherine Hahn as Agatha Harkness is in the works at Disney Plus, which is being described as a dark comedy. No storyline or setting details have been revealed, but WandaVision writer Jack Schaefer will both write and executive produce the Agatha Harkness series. Word is Han's deal includes the series and future movies, so that's not really a surprise to you, right?
No, I mean, she seemed to be the most universally loved thing about that series, and she kind of became a meme. Every time she made a face or did something at a camera, it became a meme.
Mm,
She was memorable. She was a great villain. So it's not surprising given her
mm,
popularity and how well fans responded to her.
mm. But do you hope that they're going to be willing? And I think that's the thing that they're not really going to be going exactly that route. But when they say dark comedy, do you feel like there's going to be more of an emphasis on the comedy and the darkness is not going to be as prevalent?
I don't know. I mean, that's hard to say, especially with how Disney does things, but I just imagine it would be just like how she is on the show. Evil but funny and kind of making you laugh. She kills a dog, but you end up laughing because the way that she delivers it and the way that she's so over the top in her laughing. And
Exactly.
yeah. So it's probably going to be just like the show. I would say just like her sections of the show just expanded to a series. Um, it might lean a little bit more into comedy, but I don't think they're gonna overdo it. I don't think because I think even on the show it might have leaned a little bit more into the comedy of her darkness, but I don't think it ever undercut her character. So I think so long as they keep at that fine line, they'll be okay. It's still effective.
Definitely.
I think you could do dark comedy, emphasize the comedy a little bit more, and still take it seriously. But when you overly emphasize the comedy, then
That's when it becomes an issue.
yeah, issue. But
Yeah, I think this was pretty much what we weren't exactly super expecting, but we see it. We're like, she was such a great character, great actress, and it was one of those performances where you didn't really know what she was capable of, and it was easily the highlight and the scene. Well, I won't say the highlight because a lot of what Wanda was going through, her grief, and bless you,
thank you. Sorry.
and a lot of that trauma that was associated with that character was more kind of like the thing that I was really thinking about. But to just know that she had such a strong villain to pull that energy from and to kind of channel that energy from, that was really cool to see. And especially because a lot of people weren't expecting this kind of performance from Catherine Hahn. I
Yeah.
wish we could have seen something that was a little bit darker, but knowing it's Disney, they're not gonna want to go that route, and they're not gonna want to tap into that side, that those aspects of the
I'll
characters.
say
And
this: if Warner Brothers were in charge of Marvel, we would get an Agatha Harkness, a deeply disturbing Agatha Harkness film that gives her a very dark backstory. It'd be rated R. And just kidding. That's what I
and
would.
it would have Mephisto.
It would have Mephisto in it.
And not all these hints and all these tipping offs or
Yeah.
all these little glimmers of, oh, maybe it's Mephisto, and then psych, it's not Mephisto.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I'm excited to see it. We'll let you guys know more information as it develops. So that's going to be pretty cool, and especially because it seems like she's going to be around for the future too,
Mhm.
and how exactly she's going to be messing with the MCU going forward. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be interesting to see. They can kind of take that and her character any route and any direction. So that's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
And then moving on from that, this is really no surprise, but the international branch of Warner Media promotes the Snyderverse in a way that WB refuses to do. Even going so far as to do no marketing for the Snyder Cut DVD release. And one of the things that was pretty weird was they even unlisted the commercial for it on YouTube. And it's just very obvious they just want to bury the Snyderverse and pretend that it never happened. So it's while it's not surprising, you can definitely see where they were coming from with that.
I think it's disappointing because I loved see, this is what makes it complicated. Part of me, I was about to say I love the Snyderverse, but the reality is that's not the truth. The truth is I love the Zack Snyder version of Justice League. I don't like Batman versus Superman. Let's be honest, that movie was a flop compared to what it should have done. That should have been one of the biggest movies of all time. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
Batman.
you have the world's finest, the two
Yeah,
most popular characters in comic books
it's
together for the first time cinematically.
it was anticipated for decades and talked about and teased at for years, and there's no way, and I said this before in the podcast, there's no way that Guardians of the Galaxy should have made more money than Batman versus Superman. No way in hell. So they flubbed it. Now I understand there's some of a redemption story because the Snyder cut was awesome, but the reality is it's a business. They've moved forward, they've hired new filmmakers, they're deep into production on other movies. They can't just go back. And in a way, they kind of listened to fans because most people did not respond well to Batman versus Superman. WB took that in stride and was like, well, I think we have to like take a different approach moving forward if we want
Yeah,
a little bit
which
more.
is definitely, you can see,
Yeah.
which is what they did with Shazam and then Aquaman.
Yeah.
You can definitely see that distinction or that kind of moment
Yeah,
of clarity to say, okay, we
move
know
forward
not
with
what to do now, and we're gonna fix
And-
them and go for, but also hiring the right people and the right
Yeah.
visionaries.
but they can't just go back all of a sudden because
Yeah.
the Snyder Cut ended up being a big success and people loved it because there's no way they could have known that was going to, they were like, well, you guys didn't love it last time and we moved on from that already. We can't just undo everything now. It's like, oh no, they all changed their mind. We love the Snyderverse now. It's too late. I understand why they're trying to.
Yeah.
But
It's like, where do you like whenever you need Superboy Prime to rip a hole in the timeline to cause a ripple effect that's going to change things? Like, why can't we have things like that in our universe? Like, pop me in the DC universe, us in the DC universe, have stuff that just doesn't make sense, and you can rewrite the timeline in history.
life would be so easy if we could all constantly
right.
writing our.
And
I don't like how this turned out. Let's rewind back a couple years and do it all over.
Exactly. Let me just. But it's kind of interesting because it also, too, one of the things is that you can't like, Snyder revealed a lot of the plot details and what the arcs were going to be for those movies and what was going to happen at the end of his version of, or his finale of the whole Justice League. So also, too, while even if they wanted to restore it, we know what was going to happen, and we know that Batman was going to end up sacrificing himself and was going to be the end of that. There was obviously more plot details. Obviously, I'm missing a lot of beats, but that was essentially the ending of his Justice League, was Batman dying and sacrificing himself.
Yeah.
And this is like, even if they were, now we know exactly what he was planning to do. So even if they say, whatever he says, okay, we're going to give the fans what they want, restore the Snyderverse, what are they going to do from here? They would have to change the story in another way. So while it was cool that Zack Snyder got to do his own version and tell his vision of Justice League, because it was much better, but at the same time, it was pretty much the ending of it also. Mm-hmm. Just because so much time has passed. They've moved on to other DC. Warner Brothers has moved on to other projects, and he's revealed a lot about what his films would have been, or what his Justice League, how the arcs would have developed.
The only way I could see this moving forward, if it ever does, is if they try to turn this into a television series or to turn it into like the Snyderverse on HBO Max, which is a possibility. And to be honest, at this point, and we'll get more into that with how many different versions of Batman they're going to be on the screen and how many, it really wouldn't shock me. It's not likely, but it wouldn't be the most shocking announcement if they said, okay, Warner Brothers is going to proceed forward in the films with their new plan and then just relegate the Snyderverse to television. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, whatever happens, happens. I'm just grateful that we got the Justice League movie that we got. I'm content with it to say that, okay, we finally got a Justice League movie that feels what a Justice League movie should have been like. I'm okay for now.
Yeah, definitely.
4-hour
episode. I think the only thing from the Snyderverse I would really want to see is that Batman film that they were supposed to be working on, or what was going to be the movie, what the solo Batman movie was going to be before Matt Reeves had joined and decided to do a younger version of the character.
Yeah.
Because then we would have him facing off against Deathstroke. It would have been pretty much a little bit similar to the Judas contract, except not with the Titans, but focused on Batman, because there was going to be a very personal story, and Deathstroke was actually going out of his way was targeting Batman for a specific reason. So that would have been cool. A lot of high octane fight sequences that I was really looking forward to. So if there's going to be one thing that'll come out of that, I hope we get to see that, especially because we haven't seen Joe Manganiello in the taking on the role of Deathstroke. We saw him briefly, especially in the Snyder Cut, but I want to see Joe Manganiello in full glory, like actually doing action and actually being full Deathstroke, the Terminator.
Well, you can't see him as Deathstroke, but if you want to go see him in full action, just go watch him get his ass kicked by Peter Parker.
Well, like 20 years ago? It happened.
Yeah.
Can't say that it didn't happen. So not really surprising in the slightest. And moving on from that, also it kind of funny we're talking about Affleck, but he actually said he had fun playing Batman in The Flash after Justice League was difficult. And also too, there's a little bit of a hint of him reprising his role more in the future. And it's been confirmed that the Batman is going to appear in the new Batgirl movie, and strong evidence suggests that it is going to be Ben Affleck's version of the Caped Crusader. And in conjunction with that, it's been rumored that J.K. Simmons is in early talks to reprise his role as Commissioner Gordon. Obviously, he's from the DCEU, so it would not really make sense if they had Robert Pattinson. I don't see Robert Pattinson reprising his role in that, because obviously it's a different version of the character.
I think that they've made very clear that the Robert Pattinson Batman is a standalone Batman universe. Kind
exactly.
of what the Dark Knight trilogy is, something like that. That just, I don't even think those are like DC universe movies. I'm pretty sure that in that universe it's just Batman. I don't think it's a universe where a lot of superheroes exist or anything like that.
Yeah. And not only that, but Leslie Grace, the actress that got cast as Batgirl Barbara Gordon, she actually recently started following Ben Affleck. So one can assume that this is going to indicate he's going to return, especially because if he's talking about he had fun and it was an enjoyable process. Well, what do you think? Do you think there's a strong possibility he's going to be returning?
I think there is. I also think wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. One of the reasons that I think he's had fun, I think it's because the pressure is off of him now. I don't think he handled, I mean, I'm not trying to trash talk. I think that's a very difficult position to be in, but I've observed him over the years since he took on that role in interviews, how he responds and how he reacts to it. Granted, it is a lot of pressure, but you have to know that when you're signing on to play Batman, you're going to be under heavy scrutiny, where that sad Affleck meme where it looked very clearly in that Batman versus Superman. I'm not trying to make fun. He looks visibly disappointed. You could actually see the heartbreak on his face in that interview. You see other interviews where he's talking about it and he's getting frazzled and he gets really worked up, and you could tell that he's not having fun with it anymore.
So, I even think the moment that I had where I said to myself, okay, there's going to be trouble on the horizon, was when he was promoting Live by Night, because that came out late 2016. So when he was promoting that movie, everybody was talking about or asking him in interviews was, hey, so what's going on with the Batman movie? Because he was obviously supposed to be co-writing it with Jeff Johns. He was supposed to be directing and obviously starring in it. So everyone, while he was off trying to promote his other projects and do his own things and be in the moment talking about this thing he's working on, everyone was like, hey, what's going on with the Batman? We want to know what is going to be the direction. They're like this, and that. And so I can understand that frustration at that time. And obviously, too, he was going through his personal issues with his divorce, struggling with alcoholism. So it just is very understandable. I kind of knew early on he was probably not going to be reprising his role or wasn't going to be appearing in the Batman.
So I imagine that this time playing Batman with the pressure off of him probably gave him a chance to loosen up and not have to worry about, oh, this pressure, that pressure. It's phasing him out. So it was probably, I imagine it's probably the funnest time he ever had to play Batman, because it'll be the only time he's had to play him without any sort of pressure on him like he was facing before.
Definitely. So I hope we get to see him more. I think the only confusing thing is obviously Pattinson's going to be around for the foreseeable future. They're going to be working on their own series of movies, trilogy, saga, whatever you would call it, with Matt Reeves and his Batman universe. But obviously it's going to be self-contained. And it seems like they have some kind of plans for Keaton moving forward. Also, I assume he's probably going to be more of kind of like a mentor, advisor role, like something he was
I have some
in
theories.
Batman Beyond.
I have some theories, but yeah. Mhm. Yeah, but we'll
At
get to
least, like,
start talking about the Flash.
de-
We have a lot.
definitely.
Yeah.
There's a little, yeah. There's definitely a lot to talk about, but I think it's cool, and
Mm.
we'll see how it goes. I do feel like there is room for him to be appearing as Batman again, and I know it's going to be a little bit difficult because we're going to have three different actors portraying Batman. Well, technically four too if you include Ian Glenn with his version of an older Bruce Wayne in Titans also. So technically we got four actors who are currently playing a
That
version of
doesn't
Bruce
include
Wayne.
the animated that doesn't even include the animated iterations coming up.
Oh God.
So yeah, there's
Oh
actually
God.
going to be more than that.
Definitely. So
We're going to get pretty
hopefully we
soon
get
in the next decade. We're going to get double digits. It's going to be over 10 different Batmans to choose from. Watch.
like I think it's kind of funny because the meme right now is like the Spider-Man meme. I think it's just gonna be filled with Batman in the future. A lot of different actors portraying just
Well, because with the Spider-Man thing, I picture them bringing him back for like a multiverse film. I don't picture them bringing them back. Keaton is actually coming back. It's not just a multiverse stunt. He's actually going to be part of multiple films going forward.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty exciting time too, just because we've never seen it and we're delving
Mhm.
into kind of the more feeling like these universes are comic books in multiverses in that sense. So I think this is an exciting time, and I just am looking forward to see what they do with all of this and how it all comes about and how it all plays out. So I guess we'll just see how it all works out. Hopefully we get to see Affleck and good stuff to come.
Yeah.
Moving on from that too, this is actually funny because once I had heard about it, I had a big WTF moment just because you could not see another actress perform in this role, and not certainly not up to the magnitude that she killed it at. But Madonna was actually offered the role of Catwoman in Batman Returns in the early '90s, but she turned it down. And recently, she has come out and said that she regrets it, but in all honesty, she never could have come close to Michelle Pfeiffer's amazing, iconic performance. It was just another tier, honestly.
Yeah, I honestly don't see it, but as weird as it sounds, for that point in time in 1992, that casting kind of makes sense. Obviously, now you couldn't cast Madonna as Catwoman; it would be laughable. But in 1992, when she was like in her prime and at the height of her fame, and
The most popular music artist around. Well,
yeah,
a female music artist.
yeah, Michael Jackson probably was a little bit more, but yeah,
Well, yeah, that's why I said like female.
probably the second most popular musical artist.
Exactly.
No small achievement, don't get me wrong, but like
Of course.
I think with like the old school Madonna when she was like very openly sexual and like kind of like controversial and in your face and a little taboo. I get cat for the way that they made Catwoman in that movie very like S&M-ish and highly sexualized. I kind of get why she would have been considered
Definitely
for that role.
Yeah, and I think
Ultimately,
you linger. A lot of her style and a lot of the image she projected was very Selena Kyle or
yeah.
very Catwoman from Burton's perspective and his take on the character. But
So-
as far as the actual performance in itself and acting, there just would have been no way Madonna would have been able to compare at all.
Michelle Pfeiffer is not a singer, she's an actress, like a serious actress. That's her main thing. Madonna just is one of those artists that became so popular, which happens constantly, that they become actors or they get involved in movies. So
Yeah, Purple Rain.
Michelle Pfeiffer was the better choice because she's actually an actress. And she brought all of that. In fact, maybe there is some Madonna influence now that I think about it like that. Like
Yeah.
I kind of see a little bit of like influence on it. But
Even kind of like the hair, it definitely feels like
Yeah.
it would have been something very Madonna like.
Even the tight black, the shiny black leather, like that's even kind of Madonna-ish. So I was like, I think it's better to have maybe a little Madonna influence, but get an actress who's a little bit, is an actress to pull it off. So I think I have no regrets. Though I could see how she would regret it because that's I could see that role appealing to her and she watching and thinking, fuck, man, this is like would have been good for me.
Exactly.
But I'm glad it turned out the way it did.
I mean, it all turned out fine. I mean, it was just the universe speaking to her and saying, "Hey, don't take this role," and it worked out in itself because we got a very iconic performance of one of the best actresses to ever grace the screen. And especially at that time, like 80s, 90s, Michelle Pfeiffer was just on
Oh,
another
she
tier.
was
So
yeah, she
it,
was.
it's just it just all worked itself out. So while it would have been interesting to see how that played out, and you can see a lot of the Madonna influence, it just was not meant to be, and
Yeah,
thankfully so.
yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So lastly on our list, Joaquin Phoenix recently said he's open to doing a Joker sequel, saying there are some things we could do with this guy and could explore further. But as to whether we actually will, I don't know. So it seems kind of funny too, because while a lot of it's kind of misconstruing his words a little bit, where he had said he's open to doing a sequel, but then he at the very end of the interview, or that quote, he just says, "Oh, but are we actually going to do it? I don't know, man. We'll see. Yeah, maybe we can." But like he's kind of just shrugging his shoulders, like, "Yeah, maybe we can. Maybe we will." So I don't really know if there's anything left to explore with this character. I thought the first one was good in itself, and I don't think it really warranted a sequel. So while I do like Joaquin Phoenix, one of the best actors of all time, I don't really know what kind of story they can tell
No,
this time around.
I actually we don't need it. That's the truth. I actually thought Joker was awesome. And I think what made it feel special was you took the Batman mythology, you took that character, you made a unique spin on it that had different influences, but it very much feels like a standalone vision. It doesn't have the feel of a franchise. It's not directed the way that franchise films are even directed, the way that it's made and its influences. I think what makes it special is its standalone nature. It's a good one-off story about the Joker. It's almost like I wouldn't say it's not the Killing Joke, but it's almost like what the Killing Joke would be if it didn't become canon. Just like a really cool Joker story. The film version, one-off, tells an interesting story, interesting interpretation. I don't really think it needs to go forward. If it did, of course, I'm gonna see what they do. I check it out, but I don't really need a Joker sequel. I'm content with
Yeah.
what we got.
Definitely.
There's
I
a
think
lot.
it definitely had some interesting points, especially because like you said too, I think there was definitely a lot of influence from The Killing Joke, where you're showing his backstory, you're having sympathy for him, but also portraying the Waynes in a negative light, in a corrupt light. And that also seemed, I wonder if that was the point, an inspiration for Matt Reeves, because obviously we know that there's going to be some kind of corruption going on with the Wayne family, and that's
I
obviously
mean,
what the Riddler tells him at the end of that first trailer. You're a part of this too. How am I a part of this? You'll see, and you kind of see hints of that in this most recent
yeah,
Batman trailer. So I
I
think
think
those are interesting.
it's kind of suggesting that his parents were part of the Court of Owls.
Yeah, exactly. In my opinion, or at least part of some kind of corruption scheme or something
Kind of like
to just make the rich richer and the poor poor.
and even in the Long Halloween, there's a lot of it. It's Bruce Wayne
Hmm.
trying to reconcile the fact that his dad, who he views as this great man, a philanthropist, having
Yeah,
so many business dealings with mafia people and
yeah,
gangsters and murderers and stuff like that. So I don't think that's a new
yeah.
concept to explore, like a
No,
corrupt Wayne's, but
no, but I think
that's
more
a
so in the
little
media.
bit. I think the Joker's version is a little bit harsher than even the
Definitely.
most corrupt ones because the feeling I get, even when they're corrupt, is that they're trying to do the best they can in the world that they live in, and
Yeah. And that's exactly what Alfred tells him
yeah.
in the Long Halloween also too. Like maybe that was just their way of trying to do what they could, or try to do what they could to just make this world a better place. And then also to telling them, well, I'm sure they are proud of you. But but obviously it seems like more kind of, you have to bend the rules a little bit in order to save it, or you have to bend the rules a little bit in order to make something better. But yeah, definitely with the Joker, at least there, it portrays the Waynes in a way harsher light, and actually
Mhm.
no kind of redeemable qualities.
Yeah, yeah.
Essentially, at least with those, there was kind of, it was kind of like with him too, comparing where he is as Batman, where he has to bend the rules a little bit, and that's obviously something I got from when him, Harvey, and Gordon got into their pact. Was like, hey, we bend the
Yeah.
rules, but we don't break them.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not entirely inaccurate, but it's a lot harsher
Mm.
than even the most corrupt versions have ever been. And I don't know if we can sustain that for a very long time. I mean, sure you could. I mean, you could rewrite mythology all you want, but I'm content with one Joker Joaquin Phoenix film, and let's just move forward with the other ones. But if it comes, I'll check it out and hope it's good.
Definitely. So we'll see with all that. But also, too, you guys obviously have seen, but What If season one has just wrapped up. We're going to be giving our full breakdown and analysis in its entirety next episode. We don't have enough time for it today, but there's been confirmation that season 2 is going to happen with What If, and it's going to pull more from MCU Phase 4. So a lot of exciting stuff, and we will let you guys know as things develop. And this is obviously an exciting time for me. Obviously, I had talked a lot about this, and you knew that I was super excited. I'm sure we all were. But DC FanDome, for the second time, happened yesterday. Well, December 16th. It's Sunday today. So it happened December 16th, in case you guys weren't aware. It was an all-day virtual panel event where DC, Warner Brothers, they released a lot of content from games, shows, movies, animated shows that they're working on, and it was freaking awesome. Some of the things that got revealed in the lineups were obviously the Batman, Black Adam. We got some other stuff, includes even a little teaser trailer for the Flash. The first footage show teased Michael Keaton's Batmobile and Batman, and there was a lot of really cool stuff. And with games too, sorry, keep going.
No, yeah, go on. No, I'm just agreeing.
With games too, we got Gotham, a little bit of a deeper trailer into Gotham Knights, and they talked to Scott Snyder, who was one of the co-creators of the Court of Owls and the Talons, because obviously the story is going to evolve around the Court of Owls. So they got to talking to him about it and his inspiration. It's cool to see his inspiration come to light. We also got another game we got footage for was Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. That was pretty cool. Also, too, one of the cool things I thought about it, or that I found, was that there is actually an Easter egg that honors the character's comic book origins in Kill the Justice League. At the very beginning of the trailer, as they're putting the bombs in their necks, those micro bombs, their numbers, like their prison numbers, or like the numbers on their jumpsuits, actually is a reference to their first comic book appearances for each character. So I thought that was cool. King Shark, Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, and Harley Quinn. So I thought that was pretty cool. Obviously, we saw Black Adam first footage, Shazam Fury of the Gods. We got Peacemaker on HBO Max reveals first trailer and release date. That's going to be released on January 13th. Oh, wow, January 13th already. Damn, it's going to be pretty good. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is more mature sequel, James Wan says. And then we got a new look at Black Manta's updated costume. It looks pretty cool.
I think so too.
Batman Cape Crusader, which is going to be an animated series that's going to be on HBO Max with J.J. Abrams, Bruce Timm, and Matt Reeves all creating it. It says it's going to be adult, psychologically complex, includes new versions of familiar characters. And then there's been three new animated films that DC is working on: Teen Titans Go, and DC Superhero Girls, Green Lantern, Beware My Power, Battle of the Super Sons. We got some new concept art from the Batgirl movie that they're working on. Looks pretty good. And also some concept art from Blue Beetle. He looks pretty awesome and very reminiscent of the comics, so that was cool. We got a new trailer for an animated movie, Catwoman Hunted. That looks pretty cool. We got our first look at Netflix The Sandman, at Game of Thrones Gwendolyn Christie. She's going to be playing Lucifer. DC League of Super Pets official preview. And DC League of Super Pets is getting a video game, so that's going to be interesting. It's going to be called DC League of Super Pets: The Adventures of Crypto and Ace. That's going to be pretty fun. DC Stargirl official 2 season 2 sneak peek. You can buy a Superman hat for $750.
Mm-hmm.
DC's Monkey Prince leaps into new comic book series. Wonder Woman faces her future in Trial of the Amazons crossover. Batwoman official season 3 teaser trailer. Supergirl official farewell tribute panel. Superman and Lois official season 2 behind the scenes featurette. Sweet Tooth, that's a Netflix series that is Sweet Tooth is a comic, I think, that is published by Vertigo, which is a DC Comics, another one of their like subsidiaries. That looks pretty interesting. The lead actor Christian Convery, they had an official Q&A with him. I haven't checked out that series, but it looks pretty interesting. And Naomi official season 1 trailer. She's a DC character that they're doing a series on. That seems pretty cool, and it's gonna have her journey to the heights of the multiverse in search of answers. That's gonna be pretty cool. DC Heroes and Villains is a new match 3 mobile puzzle game RPG. And we saw actually a trailer for Young Justice Phantoms, and 2 episodes dropped on HBO Max. And DC is developing Milestone animated movie, new season 2 comics. It says that DC's Milestone Media is set to release a new feature-length film animated movie starring Static and his fellow Dakota-verse heroes. That sounds pretty cool. And last but not, well, actually not almost last but not least, but DC, and then Titans is confirmed for season 4, and so is Doom Patrol. And last but not least, DC's Legends of Tomorrow official 100 episodes and 100 seconds trailer. So there was a lot of good stuff to talk about. I guess we'll start first with what you were most excited about. What really caught your eye the most, Jimmy?
The thing I'm probably obviously I want to say the Batman is what I'm most excited for, but I'm actually more excited for the Flash movie. I'm gonna be honest. I'm interested to see how they're gonna rework the Flashpoint storyline. I actually rewatched. I reread the comic not too long ago. Within the past couple months, I reread Flashpoint, and I showed a friend the Flashpoint movie not too long ago because I wanted him to be more familiar with it. And I'm just curious how they're going to rework this story to bring in to do what they're doing, because it's not going to be a completely faithful version of that story. Of course, they're going to rework it. Of course not. The one of the things it's most noted for is obviously the Thomas Wayne version of Batman. This time they're replacing it with Michael Keaton, and we haven't really had a Flash solo movie yet. So there's a couple reasons. One, I want to see a Flash movie on its own, and I want to see how it performs. I want to see how Ezra Miller, who I really enjoyed him in the Snyder Cut of Justice League, I want to see how he does in a film where he's the star. And admittedly, I'm stoked to see Michael Keaton's Batman back and to see what they're going to do with it. And I just thought it was so bizarre when that trailer opens up. I don't know if you noticed, the music that's playing is a piece of score from Batman '89, and it's
exactly what it sounded like. I was like listening to it, like
I had the same.
I think I could hear it.
What I liked about it too, they could have like done the more obvious thing and did like the theme from Batman '89, and everybody would have instantly recognized it. But it was more subtle. It was just like one of the more casual pieces of score, and hearing that, seeing that. So for a number of reasons, we've never had a Flash movie. I want to see how they're gonna rewrite it for Michael Keaton's Batman as opposed to the Thomas Wayne Batman. I'm just curious to see how it's going to reset the DC universe. I want to see Ezra Miller, and I want to see Michael Keaton return, and I want to see what that version of Gotham City has evolved like since Batman '89 or '92, I guess. But,
exactly.
So that's probably what I'm most excited for. I'm willing to bet that the Batman is probably going to be a better movie than the Flash is. Yet I'm still more excited for the Flash just because it seems a little bit more unprecedented.
Definitely.
If that makes sense. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Flash. I'm a little bit more excited for it. And I also know that Ezra Miller is pretty passionate about the character, and he's very into like the script writing process, and he's been very involved, and he wants to make this a really good vision. And I like that a lot of these roles seem to be taken on by actors, these comic book roles these days that really want to do it justice, are very invested. You see it with like Margot Robbie, you see it with Ryan Reynolds, you're seeing it with Ezra Miller. Even see it,
Johnson.
Yeah, I know that Ben Affleck's didn't work out the way that people thought it would, but I do think that there was a part of him that was really, really trying to do that character justice and like shepherd it to life in a good way.
Yeah,
so I'm excited for that, and I'm glad that it's Ezra Miller is taking such an active participation in the production of the movie to make sure that it's something worth seeing and it's special. And like I said, it's the first Flash movie. That's one of the most popular DC Comics characters. We need one already.
Definitely.
Although,
go on. For me, I think and this isn't, I just think overall what I'm most excited, because I'm excited about a lot of it. I would say for the majority of it, I was really excited to see, and I'm like, wow, I can't wait to see that. But I think for me, I'm really interested to see how Gotham Knights turns out, just because it's the first time you're going to be able to play as Nightwing, as Robin, Batgirl, and Red Hood. So obviously, because it involves one of the better recent stories from the Batman universe with the Court of Owls and the Talons. And I think it's just from that aspect, it's going to be pretty cool. I'm not really somebody who does RPG. I was looking forward to like more of a straightforward game, or even maybe something in the vein of what Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was going to be. So knowing that it's going to have those elements, I think it, and just the design and the world building and everything that they're working on, I think it's going to evokes very much the look and feel of the comics and how the Court of Owls are presented in the source material. And they, they even talked to Scott Snyder, one of the creators of the Court of Owls, and he was just giving his blessing, like, wow, this is going to be awesome. Like, I can't see just the design. It's going to be there's going to be a lot of elements of horror in it too. Like when you see the Talons and coming out and attacking, there's just a lot of, and then when the soundtrack kicks in, like at that halfway point, there's just a lot of eeriness and a lot of dreadness and just a lot of spookiness associated with them. And I think that those aspects are very cool to see.
Yeah, but I'm as far as like games like that go, I guess that's always going to be lower on what I'm anticipating, only because I don't play video games like I used to. Obviously.
Oh yeah, because obviously movies are probably movies and shows are the most popular forms of media for people to engage in. But as far as just the game itself, it looks pretty awesome. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League looks pretty cool too. I think the interesting thing for me is that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League takes place in the Arkhamverse, but Gotham Knights doesn't. But Gotham Knights is built up because the whole thing at the end of Arkham Knight, is that Bruce Wayne is considered dead. Obviously, he's not. He just leaves, and that's the way that the game leaves it at. So the whole thing when Gotham Knights begins is that Bruce Wayne is dead and leaves them in charge, leaves the Bat family in charge. So I kind of thought it was gonna be telling that story or from that same. So it's kind of weird that it's actually the opposite. And also too, King Shark is dead in their current Arkhamverse, and Deadshot is like his comic origins, where he's actually Floyd Lawton is white. So I found that to be a little interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to a lot from this. So I mean, it's funny that today is, I mean, obviously the audience will notice today it's only us, and I think that we're the two bigger, like the DC fans on the podcast. So I'm excited for a lot of this stuff. I think I'm really stoked. I'm also excited for the Cape Crusader, the Cape Crusader.
Even though J.J. Abrams is a part of it, and all he does is destroy people's childhoods. Damn you, J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, that's true. But the other talent out.
Bruce Timm, I do have a lot of trust and hope and faith in Bruce Timm, especially, and Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves seems like he's a very, very big Batman fanboy. So I think him and Bruce Timm are definitely gonna have some good things to do with this show.
If it were just J.J. Abrams, then yes, I'd be like leery and questioning him, like, oh, what is this? What is this? What is this? But I think it's all
another franchise to get his greedy little paws on.
Yeah, it's like it's not enough to have Star Wars and Star Trek.
Exactly. You know what I noticed though? It seems like in the media they're portraying Penguin as more of like an Italian mob boss, or maybe like a Falcone. Because in the Gotham Knights trailer, he definitely gives off this aura of being like an Italian mob boss, and especially that's how I felt about him in the Batman too. Like the whole "Hey, take it easy, sweetheart." He sounded very Italian to me.
He does, but my thing is this: I really think that as far as Batman's villains go, the Penguin is probably the hardest to adapt in live action. Because making it just like the comics is not going to translate to the same threat in life as
like the whole deform. I think probably the closest we got was Tim Burton's, but even then too, it was more gothic. He was actually from Gotham. He wasn't somebody from England, and I even just like the design and the clothing. It definitely felt something, and that's probably one of the more popular forms of the Penguin. And we saw that adapted into, especially into the Batman the Animated Series too.
Yeah, they took all of its cues from on the Penguin. Most of them anyway. He was a little bit more refined. They still kept some of the classiness like that wasn't really present in Danny DeVito's version. I don't think it's classy, but it's such like a strange character. Like even Tim Burton, when he talks about it, he's like trying to find a psychological profile for a character like the Penguin is really difficult because he's this short little man in a top hat that doesn't translate.
Physical deformities. And...
Yeah, to do him in live action and to make him more of a threat, you have to embellish. So either you give him like physical deformities to make him more monstrous and make him a little scarier in live action, or elevate his gangster and his mafia connections a little bit more and give a little bit more elements of like the Italian mafia thing. I just,
well, like I said, it's not something I'm having like, or that's something that I'm angry about, or something I'm gonna say, hey, that's not as in the comics. It just seems like that's kind of the route they're going with him now, and I think also too because of that reason to kind of go tap into more of those mafia connections and have him be this mob boss who's just so powerful and has all these white connections, as opposed to just this weird deformed little man with an English accent.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's like, I really think that he's the most difficult to like turn to adapt into live action and make him a believable threat. And it's just why I think these live action versions of the Penguin seem to really embellish a lot and change things from the comics because they have to make a lot of modifications to make him a palpable threat in live action.
Yeah. Because that's exactly how when he's talking, because in Gotham Knights, it's him talking to Nightwing about the Court of Owls, and that they don't, and I actually, because you don't see him in the very beginning. It's not until about a minute into the trailer you see that Penguin is talking to him, and I'm like, oh shit, that was a Penguin. Like, it does not sound like the Penguin at all.
Yeah.
So no, I just thought those are kind of interesting artistic choices
they
to
are.
Take the character. That makes sense.
But they are. But I think they make sense. They make a lot of sense. Difficult.
Yeah, let's talk about the two most important, biggest things that most people are talking about with DC fandom. What did you think of the first look at Black Adam?
I think it looks good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. It's something different for DC to tackle. You know what I mean? We always see a lot of overabundance of Batman. If it's not, it's Superman. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see what direction they take it in.
Yeah, and especially because it was a little interesting to me when it was first announced that it was going to follow his New 52 origins, where he's portrayed more of an anti-hero, but he's also still pretty villainous. He like kills his nephew and takes his power. That's how he gets the powers that the Wizard Shazam grants him, because he kills his nephew. So even though he is portrayed more as an anti-hero, he's still pretty villainous. And obviously his origins before that, he was very, very villainous. So when it was announced that The Rock was going to be him, or like had been working on, this had been a passion project for like 10 years. I just got a little bit concerned because I didn't want them to have to water down those aspects of Black Adam's character, or what I really thought was intriguing, or what I really liked about Black Adam, because The Rock wants to be a character, in these movies, or wants to be a comic character, but didn't want to play a total villain, someone who was kind of more in between.
I kind of knew it was going to be full-on villainous when they said The Rock. Is just The Rock. I don't really picture him as a bad guy on a big screen. He's a modern day.
Exactly. That's why.
Like, given that he's going to be playing the character, they were never going to go the full-on villain route. And I'm still looking forward to it. It is still a little bit different to see him as more of an anti-hero as opposed to a straight-on hero. I think just making The Rock a villain might have been a stretch for a lot of audiences and what people associate with him.
It's just like, I think what really intrigued me about this character was that he suffers from a god complex. Like, he's somebody who realizes and is aware and saying to himself, hey, I have all these powers of these gods. I have all of these godlike abilities. Shouldn't the people worship me as a god? Why shouldn't I be treated as such? I don't have to feel guilty about like the whole apex predator complex thinking. So I found like those interesting concepts about this character, in that it seems like the way that they're going was that this is somebody who is not purely evil, has maybe good intentions or wanting to protect people, but believes in doing his own things his own way. He's probably more of a narcissist than anything.
I mean, I think that The Rock is certainly leaning into the narcissism. I'm sure you heard what he said. It's going to change the hierarchy of power in the DC universe.
Yeah, that's what he's been saying from the beginning too.
Yeah, and yeah, in the same universe that Superman exists. Interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it should be interesting. Something.
Yeah, I think I'm just really looking forward to seeing this Justice Society too.
Yeah.
I really can't, bless you. I really can't wait to see Hawkman, and obviously they got the perfect actor for Dr. Fate. It's kind of interesting to see it, like I had said, because Pierce Brosnan had like made fun of playing comic book characters in the 80s, or when he was supposed to do a reading for Batman in 89 for Tim Burton, and he kind of made fun of the character. So kind of funny 30 years later now he's playing a comic book character, but he definitely seems like he's the perfect fit for Dr. Fate. We got Atom Smasher, we got Cyclone. I think it's pretty cool that we're getting kind of these lesser known characters, especially somebody like Hawkman, who is pretty cool, has a lot of great powers, and heck, even was the leader of the Justice Society. So to kind of give these characters the limelight, I think that's also pretty cool.
I'm not Black Adam. What I thought was like the coolest image was what Blue Beetle is gonna look like.
Very accurate.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to how that's gonna translate into live action. You saw the concept design for it, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I think that was.
And it was interesting too, because when they show the concept art for Batgirl, she's just perched on a gargoyle or perched on top of a building, and you can't fully see everything.
I feel like
but with Blue Beetle, it's a close up. So I found that a little interesting. You can't really make out what her suit is going to look like or the details, but with Blue Beetle, it was like right in front. So thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Batgirl movie too.
Mm.
So long as they don't have Batgirl sleeping with her Batman mentor in a really creepy.
That was the best part of the movie.
Okay, so long as they don't do that, I'm okay. Just don't. I don't want to see that. I'm sorry. It's creepy. It's weird. I'm not an ageist. There's nothing wrong with people being wildly different ages, but given their mentor role, and he's somewhat of a father figure, and Batman is supposed to be a little bit better than that.
I mean, he is better than that. I mean, I'm sure that his utility belt has a emergency compartment for a bat condom. I'm sure that's a thing. Okay. Or a Wayne Tech condom.
Yeah, Wayne Tech condoms, the most efficient in the world.
I'm sure he does, but
condoms lined with kryptonite.
So what about the Batman? What did you think of that, and how does it give you just more hope and faith in it, or was that something that was already confirmed a while ago?
Here's the thing. I actually think the reason I didn't get as excited about it is, one, it is a good trailer. It looks cool. It looks interesting. I like how Pattinson looks. I like the vibe that they're going for. But it didn't like raise my hype the way that the first trailer did. Like when the first trailer dropped, it made us like, okay, I can see what they're going for. It was cool. This is not, I wouldn't say it's more of the same, but it doesn't diminish my excitement or elevate it either. It looks good, and I'm hoping for the best. I'm glad we got to see a little bit more of Colin Farrell, like you said, very Italian mafia aspects, like like when Batman is up again. What does he say?
Hey, take it easy, sweetheart.
Yeah, that was it. Oh, I want to say, Catwoman.
She looks awesome.
She looks fucking incredible.
Zoe Kravitz.
Zoe Kravitz. I like the way that she looks with the short hair, because she does the short hair, and that's like an iconic.
Well, year one, right? That's like one of the more visual inspirations.
Yeah, but they also show her with a little bit of the long hair. She seems.
Well, she's like, wearing wigs, I was assuming.
Yeah. Then you see her. I think she looks fucking cool, dude. I think she's a kick-ass Catwoman. I'm really, really, really looking forward to her. I think she's one of the things that I'm most excited for, is to see a really good live action Catwoman, because we haven't seen one in a very long time.
Aside from Michelle Pfeiffer, but I think the thing that people are onto, that one was the performance. Obviously, it's not very comic accurate. She's not even a cat burglar. She is a mystical force who was brought back from the dead because cats licked her or something like that.
Yeah. But I think she captures the spirit of the character, even though the origin is quite different. I think the spirit of the character and the performance captures what Catwoman is. Definitely. And Hathaway's
you're right.
Belfast is Anne Hathaway's version is much more comic book accurate in almost
But
every.
not as memorable, right?
But it's not very memorable. It doesn't stick out in your head. And for all that Christopher Nolan worked harder to make that a more accurate Catwoman, I still think Michelle Pfeiffer caught the spirit of Catwoman in the comic books a lot better with her performance, her sexuality, her daringness, her relationship with Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, because her relationship with Batman was definitely it was very unhinged, and it was kind of like going either route.
Yeah,
With that, it just felt like more of a straightforward love story between her and Bruce, and her and Batman.
And that's the thing. Their relationship in the comics is not straightforward like that. It's very
intense. They're like Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Keaton's is very, very intense. That was very much missing from The Dark Knight Rises.
There's always a conflict in it, and even in that scene where they realize that they're like who they are, and then she starts crying, and they're like, "Oh, do we have to start fighting?" That really captures the tragedy of their relationship, the never being able to fully connect like they want to. Even towards the end, she tells him, "I would love just to live with you in your castle." So, as much as it changes, it just and as much as Nolan worked harder to make Hathaway's version more faithful, it does not land the same way.
Yeah,
not
you're right.
Memorable.
You're definitely right.
So I
think the thing
we
keep going. Sorry.
We need an exciting new Catwoman, but I want to hear
definitely
what you say.
What I'm most looking forward to, and what really caught my eye this time around, and this was something prevalent too in the previous trailer, but it just seems like this version of Batman is just full of uncontrollable rage, unbridled rage that he just taps into at any point.
Oh, he looks insane in this movie.
Yeah.
He looks
which is
violent.
Was pretty much it definitely reminds me a lot of Arkham Origins, because that's supposed to be one of the main synopses or concepts of where Bruce Wayne is at mentally. It's supposed to take place like early in his crime fighting. He's not a seasoned, mature vigilante crime fighter. He's someone who's unrefined, who's raw, who is just pure rage and embodies pure fear. And he even says to Alfred, "I'm one of the reasons that criminals breathe easier when the sun rises." It kind of was evoking that kind of same feel when he had said that light in the sky, it's not just a call, it's a warning.
Mm-hmm.
And that fear is a tool. So like a lot of those concepts and ideas feel very reminiscent of Arkham Origins. And you just see a lot of just this guy is just full of anger and rage, and he just is willing to unleash that at any point.
I like that too. I like that they're going with that, and I think that's a cool angle, because I think like what you see in like year one, and what you see in a lot of Batman comic books that take place, especially the ones that take place early in his career, they're all very centered on the idea of Batman as being frightening to criminals, as scaring the shit out of them. As
I mean, hell, he scares the hell out of Catwoman where he's just going on the town and she's kind of like flinching, like he even scares people closest to him.
Yeah. I think that's cool, because I don't think that's ever been quite sold the way that it should be in live action. I think Nolan got pretty close there, though I don't think he got to the full extent where like criminals are freaked out by his presence the way that they are in the comics. So it seems like they're really trying to sell the fear that he stokes in the heart of criminals who have no fear, because Gotham is so rampant and so corrupt that they're not afraid of anything. They're not afraid of cops. They think that they're on top of the world, and because of how the system works, they almost have nothing to worry about. So Batman has to be that scary if he's going to strike fear in the heart of criminals who don't seem to have any fear or
exactly.
So he has to be that extreme if he wants to strike fear into the heart of the worst people in the city. He has to be that bad.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is going to be very cool, and I'm really looking forward also to seeing Paul Dano's take on this character. He's not playing Edward Nygma, he's playing Edward Nashton, which is like another alias or another name that the Riddler had gone by. And I think also to Edward Nygma, wait, the Riddler is Edward Nygma? I think that's, even though it's a play on words, and obviously Enigma, it obviously is too similar to who the Riddler truly is.
I also think that like Enigma, in how they're going for like the gritty, realistic take, that seems.
I don't think it seems a little goofy to have him Edward Nygma.
Edward Nygma, and like to have it all like that doesn't work. But I have to say, why are they acting like what Paul Dano looks like is a spoiler? We all know what Paul Dano looks like. That's not a spoiler.
Too good looking, I guess.
Face arrows, like like I don't know. It's funny to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
we could just Google Paul Dano. We know what he looks like. That's not like a major reveal. But okay, I just thought that was a
Yeah,
little.
I was wondering that too. Because even just like the ones thought we were gonna see his face in the very beginning, like maybe when the Gotham PD moves in on him and he kind of just turns around like this, or even when Batman goes to visit him in Arkham and you see it rise and it just cuts off, and I'm like, wait, like is this guy just that good looking? Like, am I gonna want to like beat my head into the glass when I see this guy because he's just that good looking or something? Or why is the Riddler good looking? Is this why? Like what?
Maybe he's physically deformed or scarred or some kind of twist on the Riddler we've seen, but it's just, I'm sorry, Warner Brothers, that's not a spoiler. We know what Paul Dano looks like.
Yeah.
But regardless,
and just even the cinematography, the look and the feel of this movie, Gotham doesn't look like a generic city like it did. And as much as I love Nolan, it just looked very generic in the Dark Knight trilogy.
You know what's kind of weird? I don't know what it is about the Christopher Nolan movies because I absolutely adore them, and I would even argue that they're like the best comic book films ever made. Yet I return back to them and find so many things wrong where I'm like, no, this needs to be different. No, this needs to be different now.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but when I watch them, I don't really have any complaints. It's always.
But I think also too, I'm judging it now that I've gotten into comics and I've gotten into that atmosphere and that scope of things. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh in comparing them from that perspective, because obviously it was meant to evoke that feeling of what Batman would be like if he truly existed in our world. Obviously, everything coming from like hand-me-downs from Wayne Tech and all of that, and Joker cutting up his face, self-inflicting scars and wearing war paint. Obviously, it would make sense too that Gotham wouldn't look like how it does in the comics. It would just look like Chicago, essentially, or some kind of real world city that we live in, or some kind of world city that we would be very familiar with.
Yeah. But yeah,
I think there's a lot of great stuff going on with this movie, and I think Matt Reeves was that perfect visionary. I don't know if I've seen it too much, but I'm just wondering how, because this is supposed to be very very Noir driven, and more of a focus on his detective skills. We haven't really seen that too much, aside from that one scene of him where the shot is above and he's kind of trying to put the pieces together on like the corruption of my family and other things that are around like the circle, on trying to connect the dots. So I'm kind of wondering what they're going to do, what his approach was to working on his detective skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested too, because that's something that definitely needs to be highlighted in a lot more in Batman live action. And I think they touch on him. I noticed when I rewatched Batman 89, I didn't think there were any detective skills used in there at all. And I realized that that they touched on him, like to show him trying to crack the Joker's poison code and stuff like that. Or, like he cracks the code of what mixes makes something lethal or deadly or more.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was like, that's actually good. Just need a little more of it. You know,
exactly.
You need more.
But I think also too, it's a little bit hard with a character like Batman because he's a polymath. He's somebody who's just an expert and somebody who knows so much about so many different fields and is the go-to guy on everything related to the DC universe. So, or every aspect of the DC universe. So it's like you have obviously all like him being an expert in criminology, him being an expert martial artist, his being an expert detective, being an expert inventor, being an expert scientist, being an expert craftsman, all these other different things. So there's just so much
artist.
Yeah. So there's just so many different things that you can focus on this character. So I think you would sprinkle, like if you're a director, okay, we could only have a 2.5 hour movie. What are we going to work on? And you would just sprinkle that here and there and hope that was enough.
Yeah, I get it, but I like that this one is a full-on detective story. That's
exactly
not it. Batman debuted in Detective Comics, folks.
The world's greatest detective. People forget that that's one of his monikers.
Yep. And Detective Comics was just a comic book imprint. It was just a series that was just meant to show you just different cool detective characters.
And I think also, too, the fights look like they're going to be pretty good. A lot of the way that they were filmed, a lot of the cinematography looks good. The only thing I'm just a little bit concerned on is that I don't want them to go full Nolan trilogy. I don't really want to see him as just like this brawler who throws wild punches and haymakers. Like, I think as far as you can have different aspects of Batman, or you can change them. That's okay. But I feel him as a master martial artist, as one of the best fighters in the world in the DC universe. That's something that should be prevalent in nearly every incarnation of him, because that's just one of the core traits of him.
Yeah.
So it looks, from what it looked like, it does seem like I could even go with him being a little bit of a brawler. In Snyder's, in Batman vs Superman, they try to approach the character more as being a brawler, but also too, you can't just make him a brawler. He's very technical in his fighting style. So I hope that while it's okay, you can have him be more rage filled, and obviously we're going to be seeing more aspects of that. You just see him go to town on a lot of villains and a lot of goons. But I still want to see like that reservedness in his fighting style.
Almost reminds me a little bit of Dark Knight Returns Batman more than Batman Year One. That when he's angry and back and brutal and throwing them against electric fences and letting them get electric stuff like that, where like he's holding him. You even see it in the trailer, and the guy's getting electrocuted for a second before he lets him go.
Oh yeah, he has like tasers on his gloves or something, right? Like, I was like, oh, that's cool.
Letting him stand there for a minute while he's experiencing electrocution, and that reminds me of the Dark Knight Returns, where he throws a criminal against like an electric fence and just lets him fry there like that.
It's okay. He's not dead. They don't show his funeral, so he's definitely alive. He's definitely alive.
Yeah, brutal.
So I really hope that these fights are good. From what I seen so far, it does look like they're going to be good, and we have that awesome shot, that kind of silhouette shot of him, or the kind of like the lights flashing on the guns as he's like walking through the hallway, and I'm like, oh my god, his suit is way more durable than I was expecting, because he's just walking through gunfire like nothing.
Okay, so with all regards to the Batman, I wanted to say something about you touched on earlier. We were talking about the Flash, and we're talking about all the different Batmen that we have on screen, and Michael Keaton's coming back. And of course, that was one of the big pieces of hype, was, how Keaton, even though you don't see Michael Keaton in the Flash trailer, his voice is like narrating it, where he's talking about different universes. They're pulling up to the old Wayne Manor mansion. You're talking earlier how like he's going to be like, like a mentor role in the DC universe. I have a very distinct feeling that is true. But I also think that aside from the Robert Pattinson Batman and whatever Ben Affleck's going to be doing, if he's going to be part of like, the Batgirl movie, I think that there's a very strong chance that we are going to get another full-on Michael Keaton Batman movie about Batman in his old age, depending on how people respond to it. And if he's signed off for that many movies where he's a mentor character, I don't see them not giving him his own movie. I don't think Tim Burton's going to return to direct, and to be honest, I wouldn't want him to. Perfectly honest, I don't really think he's.
I don't think he has any. I don't think he has any desire to do so. Honestly,
no, it's too late for that. And even if he did, it's Tim Burton. The only thing I'm going to say about him is I love Tim Burton, but he is not the same filmmaker he was in his youth, and I'm just going to leave it at that. He's not.
Oh, you're saying that he's past his prime? You're saying that he's Ric Flair?
I'm saying he's way past his prime, and I think it's been a very, very long time since we've gotten a really good, since we've gotten a Tim Burton movie. I'm being perfectly honest, I think most of his
Batman '89. That wasn't that long ago. That was just before we were born.
Yeah. See, that's what I mean. I just feel like most of his best work is concentrated in the late '80s to late '90s. That 10-year.
Yeah, you got a point.
I don't really see him doing that good of a job, but I actually do think that we might get a full-on Michael Keaton Batman movie.
Yeah,
because
that's not something that they have said, but knowing that he's probably going to be returning. I don't know what his contract stipulated or how many movies he's supposed to be returning for, but I definitely know if this does very well financially, a lot of that attribution is going to be towards Michael Keaton and him appearing and bringing in that older demographic and more of that nostalgia. So I assume like they would reward him with his own film if this movie does very, very well financially.
What I think what we could eventually have is we're going to have an old Batman and Michael Keaton, a young Batman and Robert Pattinson, and if Affleck goes forward his own way, we'll have a middle-aged Batman. So we can pick our Batman. You want him young?
Well, technically two older Batman. Ian Glenn is also Bruce in like his late 50s or early 60s, whatever.
Yeah. So you get older Batman, middle-aged one, and a young one. So I think we're at a point where capitalism has given us such an array. It's like, Like I was almost laughing because it's like we're watching the Batman trailer and I watched it with a friend. He's like, let's see the Flash trailer. I was like, you know how weird that is? You're like, I don't know what I think about this Robert Pattinson Batman one. Let's see what Michael Keaton's up to right now. I'm like, what kind of world will we live in? We could just switch over like that between different live actions. Like it's wild. It's still blowing my mind that there's that many live action Batman going on at one time. It's
well, welcome to the world. We're just trying to usher in more of a comic book atmosphere, I guess.
yeah. But
so there was a lot of great stuff from DC Fandom. If you guys want to check out everything, and we touched upon a lot of it. We weren't able to go into detail about everything, but there was the full lineup we went through. So if you guys want to check things out, make sure to YouTube it. Check out DC Comics on IG. There was a lot of great stuff there, and also the last but not least, there was also something I wasn't sure if you're aware of this, but there was a new saying from Superman. It's not truth, justice, and the American way. Did you hear?
Justice in a better tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Jim Lee was the one who. Well, it was first on DC Comics on IG where I had seen it, and it's truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. I mean, new mission statement for Superman.
He is the man of tomorrow, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he does fight. I'm okay with it. I like it. I think it works.
Yeah.
I think it still sounds very true to Superman mythology. Truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. He's the man of tomorrow. His symbol represents hope.
Yeah.
And
I think if anything
is good and all, but I think it just makes it more universal to like people across the globe. As Superman is just a figure of hope.
Not in a way that sounds pandering or trying to be woke or trying to just get brownie points. I think that's like one of the things I'm noticing about certain things, that companies do things just because they want to be inclusive to everybody else, or whenever they are trying to right the wrongs of things, but only for doing it for clout and because they want to show people, hey, we're diverse, we're woke, we're listening to your guys' pleas and calls. Yeah, exactly. I think it does fit, actually.
I think that's what Superman is. If he's the man of tomorrow, he's hoping for a better tomorrow. He's fighting for a better future, a better world. So,
yeah. And I wish that's kind of like how, I don't know who came up with that moniker, if it was Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel, or if it was just branding from Detective Comics, or I think it was Action Comics at the time, right?
Action Comics.
It was Action Comics at the time. So it does, when you say true justice in the American way, it does feel very inclusive, and it feels like it's excluding everything else. And obviously Superman. Exactly.
Superman at this point is a global icon. Let's be honest. He is popular the world over. The world of Superman. So I get it. Truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. I can dig it. I like it.
Yeah. Seems fitting for a reboot or a rehash or some kind of change.
To be honest, times change, and as times go on, you need to bring some of your characters into the modern world and make them reflect the modern world. The Superman of the Truth, Justice, and American Way, that is a very classic slogan, but it's very much of the Superman of the 1940s when he was fighting Nazis. And when he was originally created, it was kind of like he was fighting Nazis and Hitler. And, Joel Shuster, the creators were Jewish, and it was a little bit about like Jewish hope that they were kind of projecting onto him. World War II is over. The world's a different place. So I think it makes sense. You want to make Superman seem relevant in what today's world, without changing the core of what Superman is, mind you.
And I think that's the most important thing, to where you can change it, but it still fits the character, or fits the character that we know, or it fits his traits or who he is.
Modernized, but not undercutting anything about what
which
is represents as a character.
Yeah. So interesting to see. I was like, oh yeah, I feel like that they barely changed. This is still a thing though.
Yeah.
But so a lot of great stuff coming out of DC Fandom. Awesome job to Warner Brothers and DC for giving fans this kind of access, because it was just really cool. And I think from a branding perspective, it really has the audience put a lot of hope and faith, or a lot of appreciation for it, because Marvel doesn't do something like this. So the fact that the fans feel like they're getting closer to these characters, and you see really passionate people like Jason Momoa and Dwayne Johnson talking about their characters and their love and appreciation and affinity for these characters, and we get these inside scoops into the worlds that they're building, the stories that they're telling. I think that's really cool. Really, really cool.
I think so too.
So DC Fandom 2021, make sure you guys check it out. A lot of great stuff soon to come.
So ready to close off with something a little less cool now?
Yeah, so we really wanted it was give and take. I know me and Jimmy struggle with this. Should we talk about DC fandom first or this stuff? Because everything related to DC fandom was such a high, and now we're just gonna come to a low. We're probably gonna come as low as my voice, right?
Yeah, and
We're becoming as low as my voice, I think. That's
yeah,
how low we're going.
that's how low we're going. I
But
also
obviously we
don't have
haven't
as
we
much
haven't
to say as I do about every DC stuff, but I have some. We have some thoughts about this new.
but it's just oh god it because we haven't done an episode in like 2 weeks. We have been meaning to do this earlier. I wish that we did, just time didn't permit it, because then we could have spent this whole episode talking about DC fandom and all the great stuff coming with it. But it also worked out because it's just us two today. But we have not talked about Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and I feel like there's just not much to say on it.
Okay.
But
I'm glad.
in my opinion,
Success.
Eternals, and Spider-Man: No Way Home haven't come out yet. But in my opinion, this is without a doubt the worst superhero movie of 2021. Without a doubt, easy.
I actually think it might be the worst superhero movie in the last handful of maybe 3 or 4 years, if I'm being perfectly honest with you.
Wait, do you think that this is better than Wonder Woman 84?
I actually would rather watch Wonder Woman 84 over this again. I know that movie has a lot of flaws and problems with it.
Yeah.
I still think it's better than this. I'm not that crazy about the Black Widow movie. I thought it was fine. Like, I enjoyed it for what it was. It's still better than this. I really don't get what's going on with Sony and Venom and Carnage. And look, we did like the Eddie Brock. We had Venom played by Topher Grace in Spider-Man 3. It was a bust. It didn't work. It felt goofy. It felt insubstantial. And when you hear Tom Hardy's being cast, a guy who played Bane and Bronson, and he's a fantastic actor, and he brings
very great actor.
Yeah, he brings a lot of I mean, occasionally he mumbles too much, but he's a great actor. He brings a lot of.
I was gonna get.
He has a tendency. I used to think it was just him in The Dark Knight Rises, and then I was like, no, he's just in a lot of movies. He mumbles a lot. That's not just in Bane. Like, I go back, I'm not joking. He's a mumbler. He mumbles. He garbles some of his sounds. He's a good actor, don't get me wrong, but it's common to a lot of his roles.
No, and he does this literally like he spends probably about half the time doing so in Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage. But we gotta do this.
Yeah, and that. All right.
I'm like, is that how? I wonder if it's just that's how he thinks Americans sound, or if that Americans do that a lot. Like, obviously, you got to remember that he's not American. So I'm like, is this just his take on Americans, or like the American accent, or like how we talk, or
maybe he thinks Americans are confused and unclear about everything. I don't know.
Exactly.
But regardless, that's a weighty actor, which sounds great. Even throw in Woody Harrelson. My God, what amazing casting. Like, that's perfect casting.
He's like probably one of my top 5 actors of all time. And that's saying a lot.
And we really and that's perfect for a character for Carnage. If you really look at like Natural Born Killers, like Oliver Stone said he cast him in that movie Natural Born Killers because he sees violence in his eyes. He sees violence in his face. And I totally get it. He has this, I don't know what it is. He seems like he's a cool person, but there's something about Woody Harrelson that he seems like he could snap at any point. Has that certain kind of look. It's really hard to place, but he has a very specific quality that makes him perfect for a character like this.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if that's just that fact that comedy, a byproduct of comedy is darkness, or an ability, affinity to tap into darkness at any time. Yeah. This is essentially what led to Burton casting Michael Keaton too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. And it's just with such titans tackling these roles, this feels really insubstantial to me. I think there's some stuff that I admit it's amusing. It's kind of funny. Some of the comedy aspects are a little amusing. I'm admittedly a little amused that the symbiote walking around a party, you love me, and like it's like these are my people, and like it's kind of funny and it's humorous, but it just
do we really need this in the movie? Like, does this really need to be a scene where Venom is going off in a rave, walking around, jumping bodies? I don't know. I don't really see why that was done, and
it's only done. And it's kind of funny, but it doesn't really fit what the character is. And I didn't really care for the first Venom to begin with, and I was hoping for something a little bit better. And I don't really think that they pulled it off. I really just think that this is all too hokey for what Venom and Carnage are. It doesn't take it. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I think these films should be humorless. I do think that there's nothing wrong with incorporating humor or humorous elements into superhero or even dark comic book properties. That's okay. But to have the comedy override it so much that it makes everything feel kind of flighty and weightless and almost insubstantial. And like, so sometimes I'm like, why are we here? Because this movie doesn't really seem to take this threat very seriously. So I'm not sure why I should either, because this movie takes all of this to be a silly joke. The showdowns, like you had mentioned when we were talking privately, is just like coming and then Venom hiding inside of Eddie Brock, and it's just like, what are you doing?
And then you have obviously, and then Carnage disappears too, or hides back inside Cletus and Cassidy's like, Eddie, are we doing this? And they're just like, yeah, hold on. Like, I thought, okay, you could have done that, but have obviously in Carnage too. Carnage isn't gonna give a fuck. If Carnage is gonna kill it, if Carnage has an easy chance to kill him, he's just gonna kill him. Better for him because it's gonna be a lot easier and he doesn't have to waste any effort. I thought that could have been. You could have had that still, and then have Venom realize the kind of danger he's in, and then he comes in at the last minute, or have Eddie beg him, please come out. I'm gonna die. I need you right now. Oh, you need me? Okay.
But you know what?
I feel like that could have worked, where he's in danger and they still have a little bit of a laugh there, and that could have still worked. But
I kind of feel like they already explored that earlier when he left, and his ex-girlfriend had to go and talk him into coming and sweet talk him and like, you know, get Eddie Brock to apologize and give his apology. Like, we already did this scene, and it was really drawn out already as it is, and now you have Venom hiding again, and we're just like, we already went through this, and then to put it right here to have Cletus Cassidy sit there patiently waiting, are we going to do this or not? It was just like, the fuck is this? This is like sitting around like, I don't get what these movies are going for. And then look, they do the twist where it's very clear that they're going to be like, put him in the Tom Holland Spider-Man universe. And there's a part of me is like, ugh, do I even want to see this version of Venom in the Tom Holland universe?
Yeah.
And the question is, I'm not sure if I actually do. That's the honest truth. I'm like, there's a part of me I was like, can we just hit reset on this character maybe one more time, and let's do it like seriously this time, or let's like really tackle it. I don't really care for the idea of seeing this version of Venom if he's going to be played this goofy, popping up in Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man. I'm not saying that Tom Hardy can't play the role, but go in a completely different direction. Do not like mimic the tone of these films, please, for dear God. But then again, I feel like I'm really wasting my time complaining. Did you see how much? I can't believe it. Did you see how much money it made on opening weekend?
Oh yeah.
You know, it was beat Shang-Chi, which kind of blew my mind that it actually beat an MCU movie with good reviews. I was like, what the fuck? I really had a hard time comprehending this. Like, how could this have made more money than Shang-Chi? This doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't even add up MCU's record of outshining Sony. So the reality,
Spider-Man branding, man, the Spider-Man branding. Anything associated with Spider-Man is gonna make money.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's just the Spider-Man branding. You're right. You're 100% right. And that's what I think. I was like, the reality is, as much as I want them to change it, this movie made $90 million in opening weekend in a different box office environment during a pandemic when people are not going into theaters in the same droves to make that kind of movie. That's indicative of a very big amount of success. So as much as I complain, are they really going to change it? No. They're going to look at the figures of what they made. They're going to look and see how popular it was. And they're going to say, oh, no, we're going forward. This was received well. It made big dollars at the box office. So I almost feel like it's pointless for me to complain. But look, Venom is my favorite Spider-Man villain by far. Ever since childhood, I've loved that character. And I just, at this point, I don't really have any hope of ever seeing that character, at least not for the foreseeable future, of seeing Venom how I want to see him portrayed on the big screen. Ditto Carnage. I'm not even holding out or holding my breath anymore because of how the direction they're going. And I don't understand why they chose this, because it seemed like they wanted to undo the goofiness that was the Spider-Man 3's Eddie Brock, only to like introduce this shit into the universe. Like, what? I'm just sorry. I'm just frustrated with it. It's just,
I wonder if it was just the MCU brand, and knowing that in order for a comic book movie to be successful, it has to have a lot of laughs. It has to be jokey. Maybe they were looking at where Batman vs. Superman failed. So they thought, okay, if we just Avengers it up, then it's going to be successful and it's going to be
But
good.
even the Avengers isn't this goofy.
Exactly. Well,
Uh,
and it tackles, it's just it goes a different route because it's not evoking the character that would thrive in that kind of environment. With Venom, Venom is not
and
a
Venom is
character
not one of
that
the
would
Avengers.
thrive with that.
Venom is not the Avengers either. He's not Captain America. He ain't Iron Man. That's not what he is. To make him more goofy than the Avengers is like, oh please, come on, give me a break. It's I'm just I don't know, dude. It's just I'm at a wit's end with this whole Venom franchise and what they're doing.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
honestly don't really have much hope for it.
it
You
just
think
sucks
right
because
after
it's
this movie,
not for me. Just what does not work is that it's not sure what it wants to be. It wants to be this funny buddy cop movie between Venom and Eddie, but then you have this dark, compelling story that they're trying to tell and usher in a lot of sympathy for Cassidy,
Mhm.
and those two just don't mesh together at all.
Not at all. And that's just the thing. I actually think with the more serious director, this could you would get magnificent performances out of both Tom
Hmm.
Hardy and Woody Harrelson. What a great
Oh,
match!
Woody Harrelson gave a great performance. Don't get me wrong at all.
But even his performance was undercut by the choices of the script and what they make him do. Yeah, he does give a good performance, but there is only so much when you can do when what you're called upon to do is kind of stupid. There's no amount of good acting that's going to change bad lines or bad character decisions. I'm like, we can
Exactly.
act his ass off till the end of the world. If the writers are not committed to a good vision, he's just acting out a bad part. Well, but I mean, I just I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, there just could have been so many things that they could have done right with this movie, and they just didn't do it, and I don't
I
know
mean,
why.
some of the CGI looks cool here and there. There's some
Yeah,
stuff.
Carnage looks awesome.
Carnage looks great. It's amusing. I like certain elements of their battle. Not all of it, but there's certain elements that I liked of it. I thought it was interesting to set it in a church or like that cathedral-like setting, and of course, the gong bell and all that. I mean, that's good. It's just it doesn't really deliver what it should be, and I don't really think Sony gets this character. And to be honest, I don't even think they care. They're making money, and I think that's
Yeah.
really the only concern that they have. And I think it's unfortunate because it's successful and it's going to go forward the way it is, and there's nothing that we
Mhm.
can do about it. And if he gets introduced into the Tom Holland universe, it's going to be the goofy one. And I just feel like that's going to compromise the Tom Holland universe because I know that there's quippiness and there's humor, sometimes more than I care for in the MCU, but it never goes this absurdly ridiculous with it. Like, even at its worst, when like occasionally you don't like Civil War, where like, are we still friends? I'm like, yeah, that's questionable. But like Venom is drowning and stuff like that. It's not just sprinkled here and here where you're like, okay, I don't like that, but I could overlook it because the rest of the movie is good. That's just it's all over the place in this movie. It is just loaded with shit like that.
It just seems like the screenwriters asked them, like, asked the Sony executives, how much goofiness do you want in this movie? And they just said yes.
There's something about these movies that feel dated. I can't put my finger on it, but the Venom movies seem like they are superhero movies that would have came from the early 2000s.
For
Maybe
some reason, I don't know why.
like
That's
I
exactly how they feel.
that
Like, I think of like Daredevil and that weird scene where they were at the party and then Happy was like, I mean, I'm sorry, not Happy, John Favreau, he plays
Afro.
Happy Hogan, where he's playing Foggy Nelson, where he's like touching the statue and has like his hand on like her breast, and he's just like, it feels like that for some reason. It feels like, oh, ha ha ha, like,
It feels like a dated kind of hokiness that was popular in 2003, 2000, like somewhere between 2002 and 2004. Even the Suicide Squad reminds me a little bit of Venom. All like the Suicide Squad movies and the Venom movies seem like superhero movies that are way past their expiration date, that these should have came out nearly 20 years ago. They don't feel very up to date with what superhero movies have evolved to and what they've turned into. And even so, comparing it to some of the other, it's like it's imitating the lower tier superhero movies from the early 2000s, because we were still getting good shit with like the Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's, and with like X2 and all that. We were still getting good stuff.
exactly.
This is like a lower tier 2003, 2004 superhero flick. It's just so tired and outdated that I just it's frustrating, man.
Yeah. And it was just weird too because they had Patrick Mulligan, who obviously he's Toxin in the comics, and I was like, you could have taken this character out of this movie and it would not have changed at all. I was like, did you guys only throw him in there because he's Toxin? I don't. It just seemed like I was trying to figure out like this guy has like no relevance or no appeal in this movie or does nothing in this movie, just shows up, gets mad at Eddie, and that's just about it.
Yeah. So all in all, I mean, I don't have too much to say about it other than that I'm not happy with these Venom movies. I think there's stuff about it that's mildly amusing, but it doesn't capture what the character should capture. As movies themselves, even removing my feelings about it from the source material and comic books, I still think even if you remove all of the what you might call fanboy criticisms, it's still not a very good movie. Even if you get for that, it still isn't. So it is what it is. I'm already over it. I just don't really have very much hope for like a good live action Venom, at least not for now. Maybe sometime in the future, 10, 15 years from now. But as of right now, I don't see it. I just don't.
It just feels very weird because there's never been a point where I watched the movie and well, more so, okay, comic book movies, because obviously post-credit scenes are more closely associated with comic book movies nowadays. But there was never a point where I thought the post-credit scene was a lot better than the actual movie itself, and that should never, ever be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just stood there actually just thinking about it and just pondering, like, wow. I was just literally thinking about like every movie that had a post-credit scene. And I was like, yeah, that never happened where I was more intrigued or more excited
because
for
post-credit
scene like
movie. That's after the movie's over. That's just like supposed to be a little, and here's a little teaser.
Here's like a teaser. Yeah.
That's not what the movie is. The movie is not a post-credit scene. And
and
you know what?
I was just drowning in boredom, and then by the time that popped up and seeing that he obviously transferred into the MCU and seeing like J. Jonah Jameson on the screen, I was like, oh damn! I was like drowning in boredom. I was like, oh shit, they're doing this. Like,
I mean,
awesome.
I had the same reaction, and then I remembered, oh yeah, but it's this version of Venom.
It's this version,
so who cares? Like, and that's the truth. I actually the part of me just wishes, I'm like, you know what? Maybe the MCU should just ignore this and not force this shit into the Tom Holland universe. I don't see it working. No, I'm good. I don't need it. I mean, I'm sure there's some people out there who want to see it, but if you're not going to do it right, then just don't do it at all. That's the way I feel about it at this point. I've already seen enough bad live action Venoms. I don't need to see any more. Let's let Tom Holland.
What you're saying is we need to bring back Topher Grace. It's time for the redemption of the century.
No. Neither is a good option, man. That's what's sad about it. I don't care for them. Granted, Tom Hardy's a better fit. It hardly matters though when the direction it's going in doesn't take it seriously enough.
Exactly, but well, there's not really much to talk about with that. If you guys liked Venom, are agreeing with us, let us know in the comments. It's without a doubt for me, it's the worst superhero film of 2021, without a doubt. And even Jimmy had said like the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Maybe even the worst superhero film since Suicide Squad. Not the Suicide Squad, but Suicide Squad from 2016.
I don't think it's that, but it's probably the one that's come. It's probably the superhero movie that's come out since then that's most flirted with that level of badness. So yeah, this is probably the worst superhero flick to come out in a good handful of years.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. Because like I said, at least with all the other superhero films that have come out from the Snyder Cut up until now, everything has been at least average or has at least been pretty decent.
Yeah.
At least a 7 from all of them. This is the only one that's like dropped on that lower tier like that.
Even the lower tier ones provided some kind of entertainment, or even if it wasn't that crazy, you don't regret watching them or it was enjoyable. This was just a mess. Just a straight up mess to me.
Definitely. So with all that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. And make sure you guys are following us at Heroes and Mutants Podcast on IG. Make sure you guys are liking this video, helping with the algorithm. Make sure you guys are subscribing and letting your friends know about us and introducing us to anybody who loves all things superheroes. So appreciate you guys so much. We will see you next episode. Take it easy.
Take it easy.